Coast to Coast Pick 5. $1 minimum. Player-friendly 15% takeout. Coast to Coast Pick 5. Weekends beginning January 7th.
It's a big game Sunday, or whatever we're allowed to call it, edition of the Coast to Coast Pick 5. Brian Nadeau joins me from the Silks room at Gulfstream Park. We'll hear from Jeff Siegel at Santa Anita in just a bit. Here's a look at the 5 races that we have for you in the Coast to Coast Pick 5 for Sunday. 3:37 Eastern, the first post in the sequence, race number 8 at Gulfstream Park. It's a turf mile allowance. Out to Santa Anita we go. We stay on the turf for maidens there. At Gulfstream Park, we've got maidens on the main track. 3-year-old fillies in race number 9. Santa Anita's 6th race is a dirt mile maiden special, and back to Gulfstream Park on the turf for another mile allowance race. All right, Brian Nadeau, let's get started here. Race number 8 at Gulfstream Park. Who are we using to start off Sunday's Coast to Coast?
In order, 7, 4, 11. Penner Ash is on top for me. We've got a lot of upside. Mike Maker off the layoff, reaches out for Luis Saez. This one's been training up at Turfway Park. He ships her down here. She ran a good third when last seen at Keeneland on the turf. Tactical speed to get first run, and I think that's a big deal because she's going to get first run on Siege of Boston for Jimmy Toner, and Jimmy's been really live down here too. Problem with Siege of Boston is does not have a lot of early speed. She is facing winners for the first time. Jimmy took the blinkers off last time. She blew way up at Aqueduct. It was a big-time win. So don't sleep on her. And lastly, if Saratoga Flash, the 11, was drawn better, I'd probably put her on top, or I'd put her a little bit higher up. Not a good post for this kind of trip, JP. But she does have enough speed to seemingly, or maybe I should say hopefully, get enough inside enough into that quick run to the first turn, and she looked good winning last time for Safi Joseph Jr.
All right, the 9th at Gulfstream. I know this is where your single is. Where do we pin the tail?
It is the single because it's a maiden special way going a mile, and number 5 Seduction got a run on a lot of these, and a lot of these don't have it. I think that was big. It was a good second last time behind a really sharp winner. Top Fletcher's going to add Lasix. I think the stretch out helps a little bit. We should get dry land on Sunday too. And, you know, there's some first-time starters here that have a license to be okay. There's a Judmont homebred, a Robert S. Evans homebred in the 2 and the 3. They don't have a huge pedigree, though, and I'm just willing to take one. Winning at a mile on debut is not easy to do either. Fletcher's got the 9 as well on debut. Shade. I like experience in these kind of spots, especially when you're going 8 furlongs. I'll go with the 5 Seduction.
Coast to Coast Pick 5 wraps in race number 10 at Gulfstream. This turf mile allowance. Who might you use here?
Well, it's a tricky race because I think the 2 best horses are stretching out. Certainly the best horse is Candle. Boy, she could be a really nice one. The Dam was a grade 3 winner on turf. That fast figure was earned going 6 furlongs at Aqueduct. She got to negotiate a second turn. Shug McGahee does add Lasix. I thought her debut was okay around 2 turns. I'm going to land with her. She did well to draw outside number 2, M. Claire, who stretches out and tries turf for Mark Cassie. I think she's in front in here as far as she can take them. You can take them quite a while on a firm turf course going a mile. I will also use the 8 Breath Away because if the top 2 get a little hot and bothered early, she's the one that might be tripping out in here. She won on debut for Christophe Clement. Slow figure, but again, she did it at 7.5 furlongs, and that is not easy to do. So we'll go 6, 2, 8 to wrap it up at Gulfstream Park at least.
All right, after we cash this, Chiefs or Eagles in a word?
Well, the Giants fans not rooting for the Eagles, so let's go with the Chiefs, okay?
And that was more than a word, but I see your grudge being a Giants fan. We'll have Jeff Siegel up next to talk Santa Anita. Jeff Siegel's now here to handicap some Santa Anita races for us. Jeff, race number 5, first up.
Well, I'm going to go 2 horses deep here. Number 1, Woody. That's the Bob Baffert trained filly. I think she's got some quality, even though she just failed at even money, but she didn't break that well. I think now on the grass inside speed, I think she'll bounce back with a repeat of her first race, which was actually pretty good. So number 1, Woody. And then number 4, Tina Ella. This is a filly by Warfront out of Beholder. Lots of speed. I have a hunch that she's going to be much better on grass. The Warfronts usually are. She is improving. She's still not where they want her to be, but I still think there's enough talent there where she can bust out there and either be on or near the lead or just off it. So I'm going to take a stand, try to get number 1 or number 4 home. Woody and Tina Ella. That's how I see the maiden sprint for fillies on grass in the 5th on Sunday at Santa Anita.
Let's turn the page to race number 6. We've got some horses maybe making their way to the Santa Anita Derby Trail here. 3-year-olds going long in maiden special company.
Well, number one, I don't get it, is Inside Speed. He had the one run. He finished a distant fourth behind Hijazi and Worcester, but that was a fast, highly rated race. I like the way he stayed on. Even though he got a little tired, he didn't quit. Now he stretches out. Inside Speed going a mile. I like the 2 sprints in a stretch out angle better than the 1 sprint, but I think in this case, there's not much speed signed on. I think you see I don't get it from the rail, bust out for Doug O'Neill and go. And I think he's good enough to carry speed gate to wire. Yellow Brick has had the benefit of a run 2 turns, so he's got that extra race. He's going to be sitting right behind him and have every chance. I think it's a 2-horse race, 1 and 3. I think you get home with one or the other. Number 1, I don't get it. And number 3, Yellow Brick. Before
we review the ticket, we got to ask, who's your pick for the big game?
I'm going to go with Kansas City. Every time I go to see them at SoFi against the Chargers, they win. So it's hard for me to envision them losing in any scenario. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs over the Eagles. I have friends who are committed to both teams. I'm not, so I'm not going to be heartbroken one way or the other. But Chiefs over the Eagles for me.
2 picks for the Chiefs on this podcast because Brian is a Giants fan and just can't stomach rooting for the Eagles. Let's review the tickets for the Coast to Coast Pick 5 on Sunday from both Brian Nadeau and Jeff Siegel. And as you take a look at these picks, I want to remind you that these are done pre-scratches, so be sure to check out the official track websites at Gulfstream Park and at Santa Anita for updated scratches and changes. Good luck Sunday in the Coast to Coast Pick